What do I know about Dumble amps? Well, not much because it's all from the interwebs. But Howard Dumble was an amp builder kind of known for being somewhat eccentric and elusive and picky about who he chose to build amps for. And the lore is he would build each amp tailored for the specific player that he was building it for, made them sign agreements and stuff that they wouldn't sell the amps, and all kinds of interesting stuff about Mr. Dumble. By all accounts, Dumble amps have been used to make some legendary tones used by legendary guitar players, at least at some point, as part of their signature tones that they're known for. The Dumble sound has become somewhat homogenized now with all of the overdrives and clones of that type of amp that are made. There's a particular sound that's associated with the D style, however you want to put it. But in reality, all these amps were different, and without playing one, who knows how close any particular piece of gear is getting. And I would argue that a lot of the experience of playing any good tube amp is the synergy that you get between the guitar, the pickups, and the tube amp and all that. And I think that's probably a big part of the best Dumble sounds that we associate with the amps. And one thing I know for sure about Dumble amps is I will never have one, and I will likely never play one because they're super expensive now. They have reached that unobtainium territory that is associated with the most sought after pieces of gear. There's a limited number of them out there, and the prices are so high that your average Joe just isn't gonna be able to plug into a Dumble. Dumbles are famous for whatever that legendary glorious tone is, but I've come across examples over the years where I was hearing clips of a Dumble amp and it just didn't sound good. I'm going to go over a particular video, and this is not a knock against the guitar store. It's Chicago Music Exchange. I've never been there, but by all accounts, it's an awesome guitar store with, your dream music gear in it. And definitely not going to disparage the player that's demonstrating the gear, because he's a great player. I've seen him in this video and other videos, and he is not the problem. I'll leave it up to you to what degree of good or bad or otherwise you think of the tones from this amp. Through the power of technology, I'm now in the corner and we're going to watch some YouTube together. Isn't that nice? Just to give you an example of the fella demonstrating these amps and his ability as a player, I wanted to open up with just a little clip of him playing this. I think it's a 49 Tweed Champ, and show you that, yeah, dude can play. That's a good example of some really satisfying vintage tweed tone, and that tone is not for everybody, but he's getting it done with the Tweed amp, in my opinion. Here we have the star of the show, a Dumble Overdrive Special. I'm not going to cherry pick examples of clips that are tones I think are particularly not good. We're going to listen to bits and pieces of all the general tones that are gotten from this amp, from this video, without just watching the whole video. So let's check out what this thing sounds like. I'd call that tone clean with some hair, mostly clean. He's playing a Les Paul, which incidentally is a 59 burst through a Dumble. This clip is pairing up two of the most well-known supposed gear holy grails, and that's what it sounds like. I wouldn't say that sound is particularly bad. Definitely, to me, wasn't anything particularly good. And obviously, we're watching it on YouTube, so there's limitations there, and I'm not in the room. The guitar's not in my hands, and I'm not feeling what he's feeling. Right now, to me, we're very mediocre. We're now going to get to hear this genuine vintage 1965 Stratocaster play through the same Dumble. See what kind of sounds we're getting. Really cool playing by the fellow doing the demo here. I'm just hearing this kind of clean Strat tone that's very mediocre to me. I'm not hearing anything special. Again, not necessarily, oh my gosh, it sounds bad, but no angels parting from the sky or anything like that. Now we're going to get into a little bit of the overdriven sound, and again, we have the reappearance of the 59 burst, and let's see what kind of sounds we're getting with overdrive from this legendary amp. What I'm hearing is a very natural sounding amp. It's not the smooth sound that you typically hear associated with a Dumble. Then again, I've never heard a Dumble in person, but it's very raw. And if you like that, then this may sound good to you. It's a little, maybe a little abrasive for me for what I go for. And that may be why I'm not attracted to this tone, and it's a little janky for me. But it's obviously got some touch sensitivity, and my personal opinion, I think the good parts of the tone are coming from the player and how he's interacting with the guitar, and the tone of the amp itself is just kind of raw and unrefined is what I'm hearing. This next clip is again going to be the Les Paul playing into a different channel or input, and this channel has a solid state MOSFET boost type circuit before anything. That's part of the amp, part of this channel. So let's hear what that sounds like. You tell me what you think about the sound. The solid state part, the boost, is obviously thickening the tone up and giving it some more gain and or distortion, but it's still on top of that unrefined, gritty. That just is not pleasant. That's my opinion. You tell me how you're hearing it. We'll listen to an application of this tone that I actually do like from this clip. He uses it in a kind of rhythm, riffy type scenario, and the raunchiness sounds good to me here, so let's hear that part. Again, I like the sound for that particular application. It almost sounds like a fuzz pedal. It's not what we typically think of when we think of the Dumble tone, at least not me. With the 59 bursts and the Dumble Overdrive Special, we didn't have enough gear sacred cows, so now we've brought out an original silver Klon a silver Klon pedal to add to the expense of the rig, and I guess let's see what that sounds like. With the Klon, you're getting a lot closer to what you would normally associate with the Dumble sound. That's kind of funny. You're adding a overdrive pedal to the 59 burst through the legendary Dumble, and it's starting to sound like what people think a Dumble sounds like, or at least what I think a Dumble sounds like. Maybe it's just my ignorance into what a real Dumble sounds like, or maybe I'm not good enough to appreciate the things that would make this amp good. That could all be very possible. But the best tones I'm hearing out of this amp thus far are when you put an overdrive in front of it. On this last clip, we're going to hear some pretty cool riffing and playing going on, and you'll hear without the Klon, and you'll clearly see when the Klon gets kicked on and be able to compare the two. And I just invite you to think about, as you listen to this, A, what do you think of the tone? Is it good? Is it bad? What's your opinion? And B, do you think you could get pretty close or in the ballpark of this tone with some other gear that's not nearly as expensive? Just kind of come at it like that, and let's listen to this last clip. I definitely think it sounds better when he kicks the Klon on, and I don't think it's because it's a legendary silver Klon. I think it's because it's a overdrive that cuts off a little bit of that low end that's a little unruly with this amp and boosts the mids in a pleasant way, and it just makes it sound better. And I said the word unruly. It still, even when you got the Klon going on, it's a little bit of a unruly, raunchy sound. I'm not the arbiter of what's good tone and bad tone. We all have our different idiosyncrasies of what we like and all that good stuff. I will say that the sound of that Dumble amp did surprise me. And it didn't surprise me in a good way. I didn't think it sounded great. One final thought, I think the Dumble sound is a misnomer because there's so many different Dumbles out there and they're obviously tuned to sound different as was meant by the builder, Mr. Dumble. Then there's the most important part. Who's the person holding the guitar playing the strings? And there you have practice. And I probably should have been practicing instead of watching videos on Dumbles. That would have made more of a difference than anything I could buy. That's it for this edition of Guitar Vacation. And whether you're playing a super expensive, boutique, unattainable vintage piece of gear, or you're just playing the gear you like, that you can get a good sound out of, that you're happy with, man, play it and enjoy it. Enjoy your guitar vacation. I'm definitely going to enjoy mine. We'll holler at you later.